Refresher, my name is Fumi Ogidobelo. I'm a senior agile delivery manager in my company. So I've been with Blue Sky for quite a while now. And Blue Sky is a fantastic place where you can learn. It's a citadel of learning. So if you put yourself to learn, if you give yourself the commitment and focus, you would get what you came here to achieve. Right. So today is Scrum introduction into Scrum. Learning objectives for today. We'll learn what Scrum is on the basic. Like I told you earlier, we can't really go into details today. So I'm just going to introduce you into Scrum, especially for those that have never heard about Scrum, or you're new to this sector, you're new to IT, new to all this. Don't be scared. Nothing should scare you, right? All you need is commitment and focus. So these are the things we'll be covering this session. What is Scrum? We've gone through it, and you guys have said fantastic things. So even though I said it's a better way of building product, Scrum is a framework within which people can address complex and adaptive problems while productively and creatively delivering products of the highest possible value. Somebody said the other time that the old way of working, waterfall. So just to correct you, waterfall is still a great methodology, still used by organizations. So it's just a different methodology than agile. Agile is one, waterfall is another. So it's still in existence. People still use it for different kind of projects. So, and those are the people use here. They are project managers because they use waterfall methodology in delivering their project. We use agile. So Scrum is one of the frameworks under agile. Agile is a methodology. Scrum is a framework under agile. When you start your internship, we will go deep into other frameworks and how Scrum fits in within agile. So agile is the umbrella. Scrum is like a child under the umbrella. Now, Scrum is a framework that allows team to work together. Scrum, it encourages people to learn. You learn from your mistake. You're able to fail. If you fail as a team, you can learn faster. It helps a team to self-organize while working on problem, and they reflect on their wins and losses to continuously improve. You will see most of these words being used here. You will see it come to life later on in this training. So Scrum is a framework. It allows a team to work together. Scrum has its own processes. So these processes enables a team to work together. They are able to reflect on what they've done well, what they haven't done well, and how they can do it better in future. So while Scrum is the most frequently used most frequently used framework, so there, like I said earlier, there are different frameworks under Agile. There's Scrum, there's Kanban, there's XP, there's Safe. We've got loads of like a few, like 6 or 7 frameworks under Agile. But Scrum is the most popular because it's easier for a team to use it, and the process is not too complex. That's why we're using Agile in the first place. So it's if you would have heard about a software development team, they use Scrum and all that. However, even other kinds of projects that are not software development projects, they use it. They use Scrum because it helps. It helps teams come together and work together. So its principles and lessons can be applied to all kinds of teamwork. So this is one of the reasons Scrum is so popular. You can use it across all projects. Okay, so it's the most popular framework. I call it the most popular child of the agile parent. So see agile as the parent, Scrum as the favorite child. That's what I would call it. Some people like Kanban, but Scrum is the most popular. So, like here, it says Scrum describes a set of meetings. You will hear about the meetings as we go on. It's got tools, it's got roles. All this put together makes Scrum what it is. Now, within Scrum, you've got team, a team of people forming a Scrum team. Now, we've got the Scrum Master, which is what this training is about. The Scrum Master is the master of Scrum, the person with the knowledge of Scrum, the team coach. This Scrum Master should be able to teach and coach the team about Scrum, how its processes should work, how they can use its processes to work their project, right? There's another role called product owners. I don't know if you've heard about product owners. So, product owner is part of the Scrum team, then the development team, or you can call them developers. So, when you say developers, if you've read your Scrum guide, the developers consist of all the people, all the skills needed to complete that project. They can range from developers to quality assurance to DevOps engineers, solutions architects, data engineers, different people, they can form the development team. So these three sets of roles, they make up the Scrum team. If you call a Scrum team and they don't have a Scrum master, it's barely a Scrum team. So each of these roles, they have their own responsibilities. That's what you need to know. They've got their own responsibilities, and when roles are defined, then the process works better. The Scrum frameworks, under the Scrum framework, we've got roles, like we've mentioned earlier. We've got ceremonies. Those are the meetings I was referring to earlier. We've got what we call artifacts. These things might not make sense now. Don't bother yourself. Don't put yourself under pressure. It might not make sense now, but it would make sense when you start the internship. The roles within Scrum, like I said, product owner, the Scrum master, and the team, the development team, not just the team, because every person belongs under the umbrella of the Scrum team, the product owner, the Scrum master, and the development team. And every role is important, right? And under the Scrum framework, we've got ceremonies. We've got the sprint planning. You will learn about it as we go on. The sprint review meeting, the sprint retrospective, the daily Scrum, and what's missing here, refinement. The artifacts. Artifacts are the things like what makes this framework work. But so if you've got roles, you've got ceremonies, what do you use? This artifact, their product backlog, the sprint backlog, burn down chart, there are lots of them. You'll see them later. But know that these three items, right? I call them items, they are necessary under the framework of Scrum. The roles, the ceremonies, and the artifacts. You cannot do Scrum without this. So we won't deep dive, but I'll just touch on it briefly. The product backlog. All work items related to the project or the product you're trying to deliver, they are ordered by the product owner. So you would realize that the previous slide I said you can't do Scrum without what you're seeing on my screen. Roles, ceremonies, and artifacts. You will see them come to life in the other slide. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. The product owner puts items there, put a list of work items to be delivered by the Scrum team, by the development team on the product backlog. The product backlog is owned by the product owner. When I say it's owned by it, they are accountable, they are responsible for it. Everything that goes on the product backlog is for the product owner. The product owner will prioritize the product backlog that this is the item we want to deliver this for the next 2 weeks. These are the items we want to deliver. The team then comes, discuss it, and they start working. The sprint backlog is the backlog for the development team. I said the product backlog is for the product owner. The sprint backlog is a list of promised items. Who are those promising these items? They are the development team. So when the product owner says this is what we want to deliver, the team now says, oh, okay, actually we can deliver this, we can deliver this, we can deliver this. It's a promise, it's a commitment. So the sprint backlog houses the promised items by the team, right? So the sprint backlog, the team is accountable, responsible for their item on the sprint backlog. That is where they create their own task called the promised item and they work from the sprint backlog. Burn up, burn down chart. These are metrics. Velocity chart, metrics. Readiness, doneness criteria. All these, they are artifacts under the Scrum frameworks. I'm sure you would have heard about burn down chart, the burn up chart, the velocity. All this you will learn during the internship. This is just an introduction. Metrics are Basically, what you use in measuring the level, the progress of the team and the project or the product you're trying to deliver. Now, under Scrum, there are three pillars. See Scrum as a house. You know the pillars that hold a building. For Scrum, they are called the empirical process. There are three pillars holding the house of Scrum: transparency, inspection, adoption. Some people call it adaptation.
Adaptation.
Now, transparency. The team enables, the team make sure that their work is visible to everyone. So you're not just working and no one knows what you're working on. So transparency is very key. If you're going to deliver, be transparent about it. If you're not going to deliver, be transparent about it. And the team as a whole is transparent to the organization. If they are struggling, they need to be transparent about it that we are struggling. We need somebody else to come on board. Or we need skill. We need to be upskilled. We need to be trained. Transparency is very key in Agile. Not just Scrum, it's very key in Agile. Inspection. Who inspects? Frequent inspection of the progress of the work towards the sprint goal. All this will make sense. Sprint goal, you might not have heard it. We'll touch on it later. So, who inspects the work? The team themselves, they inspect their own work, and the stakeholders inspect the work. Who are the stakeholders? They are the people that are impacted by the work you are doing, or they've got impact on the work you are doing. So these people, they come to a meeting called sprint review and they inspect the work to say, oh, actually, this is what we wanted, or no, this is not what we wanted. Okay, so imagine you want to build, let's say you want to build an app, right? You want to build an app for a customer, and they said they want pink to be the landing background of the app. Now, they come to the inspection. Now, the team, they've worked for the first 2 weeks. They have an increment. You know what an increment means. An increment, when a team works in sprints, they should have an increment at the end of the sprint. It might not be usable, but it should add value. Right. So at the sprint review meeting, the stakeholders come there and they inspect. Like, okay, what are you guys doing? Okay, this is the work you've done so far. The team demos their work, they show their work. This is what we've done, and the stakeholders, they're able to say, oh, actually, this is not the shade of pink we were talking about. Can you make it darker? What shade of? Then the PO starts asking, the team starts asking, that what shade of pink do you want? Do you want magenta? Do you want fuchsia? Do you want baby pink? You know, they get their feedback from there. They go back to the drawing board and they start working again in frequent increments rather than doing a project like in waterfall. Waterfall works in phases. Agile is sequential. Like you finish, like in waterfall, when you start a project, you finish it. Then the customer can see the end product. Agile, you do it incrementally. You do your sprints incrementally, you do your project incrementally. What do I mean incrementally? You do it bit by bit. Let's say you're building an app. Let's say you do the landing page first, then you do the functionality for a second, blah blah blah. All this in bits, so that the customer can come and say this bit you've done is good or not. Then you can inspect and you can adapt to say, okay, yeah, the customer wants a darker shade of pink. Let us go back to the drawing board. By so doing, the customer is going to get what they want at the end of the day because they've been involved in the process of your project. Adoption, whatever they say, you're adapting their what they've inspected, you're adapting their feedback to your output. So it's a continuous process of reviewing and adjusting the process, right? To make sure your customer gets the best. Your customers, your stakeholders, whoever is going to be using your product, they need to be part of the journey. So they need to be aware. You would understand this as you go on. Now, just like every family, every culture, if you come from Africa, or if you're from England, wherever you're from, everybody has got their own values. Like in Africa, some tribes, they will say we've got this value, we've got this culture, this is what we do, and all that. you know Scrum has got its own values. This guides everyone within the Scrum umbrella, so that we can be better at what we're doing. What are the Scrum values? Courage, focus, commitment, respect, openness. This Scrum value, as a Scrum master, you see, they call you the Scrum master. It's not just a title, it's a responsibility. It is a servant leadership role. You need to embody these values enough for you to be able to teach somebody else these values. What are these values? Let's start with openness. You might not see it, but openness is the one I try to start with. Openness. If you are able to encourage your team to be open, how can you encourage somebody to be open? Whenever you're thinking about Scrum, think about parent and child relationship. If you want your child to be open to you, what do you need to do? Anyone? I can't hear you.
By being, hello.
Yeah, hello.
By being friendly.
There's one key thing I'm looking for. If you want somebody to be open to you,
you be open
You're
yourself.
open to this person as well.
Open to yourself.
Yeah, there's one more word.
And be interactive.
Another
transparent.
word.
I think transparency.
There's just this word. There's this golden word I'm looking for.
To building a relationship.
Yeah, okay, so go from
Honest
building a relationship.
well.
No. Hold on. Stay with building a relationship. Now, there's another word from building a relationship. How do you build relationship? What do you do?
You communicate.
Okay, so the word I'm looking for is trust.
Trust.
Now, you can mute yourselves, guys. So, fantastic, guys. Thanks very much. Now, openness. The only way your child can be open to you is, like you said earlier, you guys, you said, build a relationship, be friendly. Let them see you and let them be able to trust you. If your child can trust you, that, okay, if I speak to mommy, she's not going to scream, then I can tell her anything. It's something you have to build. It doesn't happen overnight. For those of you that have got teenagers, you know this. It doesn't happen overnight. You need to build that relationship. Show the person that you can trust me. If you trust me, I won't let you down. Trust me that I will protect you. Trust me that I've got your back. That is your role as a Scrum Master. Your team needs to trust you first. You might join a team today. They won't trust you today. They won't trust you tomorrow. They won't trust you maybe not even in 2 or 3 weeks or 1 month. But guess what? Start building that relationship. Show them that you trust them. Show them that you trust them. Then automatically, gradually, they will start trusting you. If they start trusting you, they can be open. That's number one value. They can be open. Once they can be open to you that, okay, I can tell Fumi anything. I trust her enough now. She has shown me that she's trustworthy. Now let me tell her what's going on really. Fumi, actually, I think I'm struggling in this area. I need this person to really talk to me about this, blah, blah, blah. They can tell you what they're struggling with. They can tell you their fears, because now they trust you that you won't put them on a blast. You won't expose them, that you're genuine. You are genuine in your relationship with them. Number one, openness. Respect. When somebody is open, then both of you can have mutual respect, isn't it? So when your child trusts you and they're now open to you, once they're open to you, you won't say, oh, can you imagine what you've done? No, blah, blah, blah. No, you respect them enough to speak to them like adults, isn't it? So once your team gets to that point of being open, both of you can respect each other. As a team, you can all respect yourselves to say, okay, now we've gotten to this stage of respect. Let's let this person finish speaking. Their idea is valid. Don't shut anyone down. Don't say your idea is silly. Don't say you don't know anything. This is Scrum. Respect each other. Once you guys can get to the stage of respect, then everyone can be courageous enough. You will be bold. Your confidence level will rise. Your child's confidence level will rise that my mom trusts me enough. That's why I'm able to tell her anything. She respects me enough to hear me speak, and I respect her enough to understand our own point of view. Then we come to a compromise. Then that child will become courageous, no longer timid. He or she will go to school and be confident. Then you will start seeing results. Or they can be amidst their peers and they'll be confident to tell them that, oh, okay, I'll think about it. They come home, they'll be confident to tell you anything. The moment your team gets to a place of courage, do you know what courage means? Being audacious, being able to take risk, big risk, being able to take challenges. They can take anything coming to them. That's because you've provided that environment for them to be open, for them to have respect for one another, and for them to be courageous. Once they get to the level of courage, they are able to focus on the project or the product they are trying to build. If your child can focus in school to say, okay, I'm in school to study. Once your child gets to that level that, okay, your child is confident, you're not shutting your child down, they're courageous, they can focus in school. They're not scared, they're not worried. They can focus. And what does focus give birth to? Commitment. Commitment. Once your team is able to focus, they can commit to what? Their goal, to the sprint goal, to what they need to deliver. Scrum value, the Scrum values are very, very important. They are the foundation on which every other thing stands. This thing, they might look like, oh, it's so simple. But trust me, it takes a team a while to get through number 1 to 5. Number 1 to 3 are the most crucial. If you're able to achieve that with your Scrum team, number 4 and 5 will be a breeze. Trust me on that. Don't forget the Scrum values. If you want to remember it, I've put it up there. ORCFC. Openness, respect, courage, focus, and commitment. Work as a team, as against in silos. Update your task and time. Either you're using Azure, DevOps, Jira, or Rally. Be a self-organizing team. To be a self-organizing team, it takes a lot. Until you learn and live within these values, you cannot even be a self-organizing team. Team collaboration, team effort over individual effort. It's not a competition. The developer should not be in competition with the QA. The QA should not even be in competition within the QAs. The Scrum Master should not be in competition with the PO. The PO shouldn't be in competition with the Scrum Master. It's a team effort. One person fails, everyone fails. That is how it is. You need to have that at the back of your mind that we win together, we fail together, we fall and rise together. Build an agile mindset over doing agile. This is broad. I won't go into this today. You will learn it over time. Have fun while working. So it's not just about, it's not a military approach. You need to have fun while working. Create that environment where your team can work and still have fun. Trust them to do the work. It is not a micromanaging framework. You need to trust your team. If your team says, I'll be doing this, you need to trust them, they will do it. Before we go into, although tomorrow's session will be for question and answer, but I just want to give you an opportunity before I go into the ceremonies for one person to ask question, if you've got any. No question, good. So, Scrum, event, and ceremonies. Can you confirm you can still hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, fantastic.
Yes, we can.
Okay, okay, cool. So, Scrum, event, and ceremonies. So, remember I said earlier,
Look at that. Who said that?
Can you please mute yourself? Thank you. So in Scrum, we talked about meetings. They are called ceremonies. So there are ceremonies under Scrum. You will quickly learn them now. You will not learn everything, but you will hear about them now. They will make sense to you. I wouldn't play this video. So we're starting with the daily Scrum. There's one of the ceremonies is called daily Scrum. And as the name implies, it's a daily ceremony. is time boxed at 15 minutes. It's a ceremony you would have heard about. Some people would have heard about stand up. Some people call it daily stand up. Some people call it daily scrum. People call it different things. Well, it's daily scrum. It's a meeting where the team, they have it in the morning. Sometimes something, depending on where the team they're working from. Some people work from the US, so they find a mutual time where they can have this meeting. But it's a daily meeting where the team comes to talk about what they're working on. Before, in those days, mechanically, what happens there is, what did I do yesterday? What am I doing today? Are there any blockers? That's what each person will talk about. But nowadays, it has really evolved. So what the team will talk about is what we're working on. Okay, this is what I'm working on. Actually, I got stuck here. So Donheim, I need to have a meeting with you. So basically, this is where they talk about what they are doing and how they are progressing with the work. It's different from a status update. You're not giving status update of the project. You're talking about what you are working on as an individual, and it might integrate with someone else's work. As it's on the screen here, efficient and effective daily scrums are a good indicator of a high performing scrum team. You would join an organization, sometimes you would see them, they really don't know how to use the daily scrum. They will go off on a tangent and they start talking about different things, start talking about meetings and the problems. They go on and on. It is your role as a scrum master to call everybody back to where they're supposed to be. That, okay, guys, can we take this up later? Daily scrum is supposed to be time boxed at 15 minutes. Focus on what you've come there to do. Talk about the work, what you're working on. If you've got any problems or blockers that you need anyone to unblock you on, that's where you talk about it. I'll move to the next person. So that's one of the ceremonies. Very important ceremony. The second one is sprint planning. As the name implies, that is where you plan the work. That is where you plan the work in iteration. So remember, I talked about the product backlog. Sprint planning is done from the product backlog. Remember, we talked about the product backlog the other time. Who can tell me who wants the product backlog?
The product owner.
The product owner. Fantastic. So in order to have the sprint planning, you must have a prioritized product backlog. What do I mean by a prioritized product backlog? The PO would have put the items in the backlog in the order of priority. This is what I want the most. There are different techniques of prioritizing the product backlog. The popular one is called Moscow. You probably have heard about it. If not heard about it, please Google it, learn about it. The must have, the should have, the could have, won't have, and all that. So the product owner would have prioritized the backlog that, okay, these are the things I want to do. I want to cook jollof rice. So the first thing I need to do, I need to go to the market. The second thing, I need to go to the ATM. The third thing I need to buy pepper, tomatoes, and all that, onions. They've listed the items in the product backlog. Now the team that wants to cook the jollof rice, they will come together. That's the development team, developers, QAs, whoever is in your team, they'll come together. You as a scrum master, you're facilitating this. Okay, guys, we need to sprint planning. You're sharing your screen. The PO, you've met with the PO before. You've talked about this. PO has prioritized the rice and everything is there. You've talked about what they want. So the team, they start. Okay, you open one of the tickets. Okay, this is going to the market. Okay, guys, this ticket is about going to the market. So it's about planning how to cook the jollof rice. So let's say this project is jollof rice. We want to cook jollof rice for the next 2 weeks. Now the team will come, they talk about this, so they ask questions to the PO that, okay, PO, this just, can you clarify what this means and all that? Can you clarify simple language? What do you expect here? They talk about it. Once they are clear, they then, you as a scrum master, you facilitate what they call estimation. You will learn about that in the course of the internship. So you estimate it. Estimation is like you're saying, okay, this is the complexity. Oh, this going to the market is quite difficult. I need to buy train tickets. I need to walk to the station. Okay, so I'm going to think about it. This might take me, let's say this might take me a whole 5 hours. Okay, then, okay, based on what I've done before, I've cooked fried rice before. So this shouldn't take me more than 5 hours to go to the market. They put 5 hours there. There are different levels, there are different techniques of estimation. So don't even think about it. I'm just making it simple for you to understand what happens during the sprint planning. So they estimate it. And they run through the backlog like that. Based on the velocity, they plan the sprint. What is the output of the sprint? What comes out, or what is expected to come out of the sprint planning? It's the sprint goal and the sprint backlog. Who wants the sprint backlog?
Development team.
Development team.
What's another name for the development team?
Please mute.
Developers. Fantastic. Thanks. So the output of the sprint planning is the sprint goal and the sprint backlog. The sprint goal means the sprint goal helps the team focus on what is important. And based on these examples I've given, what is our sprint goal for the next 2 weeks?
Finishing the jollof.
Sorry, say that again.
I said cooking the jollof.
Yes. So our sprint goal, what we want to achieve in the next 2 weeks is to cook jollof rice. So the output, what will come out of this planning is we must have a goal in mind. If we don't have a goal, then we just keep doing different things. You must have a goal in mind. Let's say your child is sitting an exam. Oh, I want you to be able to go to grammar school. So the goal is grammar school. So everything you will be doing, everything your child should be doing is what will make them achieve admission into grammar school, isn't it? So your goal for that sprint is cooking jollof rice. Everything that should be in the sprint should align with cooking jollof rice. Now, the team then says, okay, we've planned this work. Let's say John, let me take for example, John now says, okay, to go to the market, what do I need to do? I need to change my clothes. He will create a ticket, change my clothes, wear my shoes, take money from the bank, then take a train. Those are his tasks to be able to go to the market. Remember, go to the market is just one story. From that story, the John will break that story into small tasks. Those small tasks will be in the sprint backlog. That's to remind John what he needs to do step by step to complete going to the market. That's sprint planning. You will know more during your internship. So on your board, this is what your board would look like. You've got items in to do, you've got items in progress, items that are done. John has go to the market, he has created his task in the backlog, it's in progress. He has put one of the tickets into progress. He is going to the bank to collect money. The moment he's done with that, he will move the ticket to done. That ticket would meet the definition of done for it to go to done. You will understand all that later, but this is what your board would look like, or it would simulate something like that, like this. The next ceremony is called the sprint review meeting. As the name implies, review. We want to review what we've done, or some people call it demo. So this meeting, this is where the stakeholders come and meet with the team to say, okay, what have you guys done? They can share their screen. They can show that, okay, we've, I've gone to the market. When I went to the market, no, okay, so you remember this, our goal for the sprint is to cook jollof rice. Now they show the jollof rice they've cooked. Okay, if you taste it, it's got salt, it's got Maggi, and it's the kind of rice you want. And the stakeholder can now say, actually, it's tasting too salty. Maybe the next one you want to cook, try to use just a pinch of salt, or here in this jollof rice you haven't got veggies, and I think I want veggies in the jollof rice, so the next jollof rice you'll be cooking, add veggies. The PO is writing those things down, that okay, they want veggies, they want less salt, they want this. Fantastic. I can see it's really creamy. Did you guys add butter? Yes, we added butter. Okay, cool, that's really good, well done team. Okay, this rice, it looks fantastic, it's not too soggy, it's really blah blah blah. Those are good things. The other parts, improvement items, the PO is writing it, and even the team, they are noting it in there that okay, this is what we need to do better. Sprint review meeting, you would have the Scrum Master. Don't forget, you as a Scrum Master, you're facilitating. Your role is to make sure that People are having the right conversations. If they are going off key, your role is to call them back to the reason why you're there in the first place. If they start talking about something else, okay, actually, for me, okay, can we take that? Maybe that discussion, let's take it another time. Can we just focus on this review meeting? Politely, diplomatically call people back to where they're supposed to be. You're not anybody's master. You're not anybody's boss. So you're part of the team. So you need to call them with respect back. Don't forget the Scrum values. Respect for one another. So the product owner is there, the Scrum team, the stakeholders, the sponsor, the customer, anyone can be there. Sprint review meeting. It's a feedback loop where you get feedback so that you go back to the next sprint and do better. The sprint review, I'll brush it. Sprint review focuses on products being developed, potentially shippable increments that are created during the sprint. The stories are checked against the demo. The stakeholders are invited to discuss and demo what was completed during the sprint. The sprint review is an important meeting for stakeholders. They're able to ask you, the team, questions, and they're able to make suggestions. You notice when I was giving the examples, the stakeholders are asking questions. Did you add butter? Oh, the salt is too much, blah, blah, blah. The PO takes notes of the suggestions and it can answer questions alongside the team. The role of the Scrum Master is to schedule this meeting, organize the meeting, and facilitate it. Don't forget, all these meetings, the Scrum Master, you need to schedule it. You must have it already in your calendar. You won't wait until it's time to review the meeting before you do it. So you arrange for the tools, you make sure everything is working before the meeting. Now, the other ceremony is called retrospective, where you can discuss, the team can come together, reflect on what they've done during the sprint. That okay, in the process of cooking this jollof rice, when I went to the market, it was really good. But I think what the mistake I made was I took the northern line instead of taking the district line. District line would have got me there faster. So I think next sprint when we're going to cook the jollof rice with the veggies, I will take the district line. Improvement items. You guys are discussing what went well during the sprint. What did we do well? What can make us better as a team? Do I want to give shout out to anyone that thank God for if not for Shade, I wouldn't have been able to buy the basmati rice. If not for John that told me that I should buy ketchup, that the puree, I would have bought ketchup. You know, you're giving shout out to people. Meanwhile, you're reflecting on what you did well, what we didn't do well as a team. Don't forget transparency. Let's be open. This is where your team can be open. The stakeholders are not invited to this meeting. Customer is not invited to this meeting. Leadership team, they're not invited to this meeting. This is the team's meeting. Your team should be able to talk about anything they want to talk about during this meeting. They should be comfortable enough and they should trust themselves enough to say, whatever we say here, let's try and improve as a team. That's what the retrospective is about. And during the retrospective, before I move ahead, during the retrospective, you have improvement items that you guys want to keep an eye on. That okay, don't forget next sprint. Don't forget that when you are cooking the next jollof rice, we're going to take the district line instead of northern line. You guys are writing it. This Scrum Master ensure that you're writing these items so that you don't forget it. You're not just doing retrospective meeting for the sake of it. You're doing it so that you can improve as a team. The only way you can improve as a team is if you adapt that change into subsequent sprints. If it's a communication problem that you guys realize that you had the previous sprint, you improve your you try to improve your communication in subsequent sprints. So the sprint cadence. So sometimes sprints can be 2 weeks, for some companies 1 month, for some 1 week. But the most popular one is 2 weeks for Scrum, for a Scrum team. If your sprint starts on a Wednesday, it will end on the Tuesday, 2 weeks after, 10 days. It's 10 days, let me say, yeah, 10 working days. Wednesday, then all through the next week, then Tuesday before the and before the next sprint. So if you do your daily stand up every single day of those 2 weeks, you can see daily stand up every single day. Your sprint starts on a Wednesday. The second ceremony is every day. The third ceremony is the one we've not talked about. It's called grooming or refinement. The refinement meeting is where you discuss the tickets, the stories in the backlog. You refine it. You want to talk about it. You want to break it down. If it's too big, if the story is too complex, you want to break it down as a team. That no, let's do it this way. Let's do it this way. You're refining it. You learn that as we go in the course of the internship. Some people do refinement once a week, some people twice a week. I subscribe to once a week for refinement. Then you go, then you do your demo. Your demo is usually done the last day of the sprint. Your demo is the review meeting, your stakeholders coming together. After your demo, you do your retrospective, and another sprint starts immediately after one ends. So the next one will start when? Going by this schedule here, when will the next sprint start?
Wednesday.
Wednesday. It will start Wednesday. So it's ongoing. It starts on a Wednesday, ends on a Tuesday, starts on a Wednesday again. No break. So it's a continuous cycle. So as you can see, these are the ceremonies we've talked about briefly. Like I told you earlier, you cannot go into details too much in this session. You can only go into details when you join the internship or on your own. You're researching, you're learning more and more about Scrum. Scrum is very interesting. It's something, if you're interested, read, ask questions. So look at what it looks like. The product backlog, you do your sprint planning. The sprint planning gives birth to what's the output of the sprint planning?
Backlog.
And what? Someone else.
Sprint
What's the
goal.
output of the
Sprint goal.
sprint goal? The output of the sprint planning, sprint goal, sprint backlog. That's it there. Product backlog, sprint planning gives birth to the sprint backlog. And there's a daily scrum. Every single day, daily scrum. You have a potentially shippable increment. The measurement of progress is if you've got something shippable at the end of the sprint. They've got the sprint review. Who attends the sprint review? Someone else entirely now. Who attends the sprint review meeting?
Both stakeholders and the team.
Product owner.
So always remember, the product owner is part of the team. So when you say the team, the product owner is included in that statement, right? So the review meeting is attended by the stakeholders, the customers, and the team. Now, someone else entirely. What is the purpose of the sprint review meeting?
The sprint, Isaac on the line.
Is it?
I think it's for feedback loops. I'm not sure.
Yeah, you got that right, but I want you to say it like you understand it. What happens during the sprint review? Why are we doing the sprint review meeting?
The sprint review.
Stakeholders to be able to check if what they expected has been done and possibly make amendments or suggestions.
Fantastic. Yeah, someone else. Someone wanted to say something. The lady.
Yeah, it was almost the same thing. The sprint review is where when the stakeholders, the team, and everybody else comes in and they then talk about what has been done, what needs to be corrected, what needs to be adapted, and how to do the next sprint going forward. If there needs to be any correction, if there needs to be any anything at all that needs to be added. That's when it's all being discussed.
Fantastic. Thanks. Okay. What happens at the sprint planning?
This is where the work to perform is.
Anyone that has not spoken before?
Okay.
Sprint planning is when part of the tasks from the product backlog is simplified and it is planned when you pick an item from the product backlog and you elaborate it on what to do, you plan on that single item and spread it on how to achieve that task.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Anyone else?
It's just to show.
It's also where you can have where the Scrum Master can estimate what can be done within the project, like and see based on the estimation, you can now decide how you can achieve the goal from the product backlog.
Okay, so let me quickly do a little bit of correction there. So the Scrum Master, number one, does not estimate. The Scrum Master does not give task. The Scrum Master does not decide what needs to be done. Now, based on what I've just said, who prioritizes what needs to be done?
The product owner.
Good. So the product owner, don't forget, the product owner manages the backlog, owns the backlog. The backlog houses what? What is contained in the backlog? Somebody talk to me.
The backlog.
What needs to be done?
What does the backlog contain?
What needs to be done?
What needs to be done?
Yes. What are those
order
things
of
called?
priorities.
In order of priority.
List of promised items.
Yes. Okay, fantastic. So the product backlog houses the stories. They call them user stories. It houses the stories, either the in form of the issues, epics, features, stories. You will understand all that later. It houses those items that needs to, those work items that needs to be planned. And after the work is being planned, where does the planned work goes to? Where does the team work from? Where do they write their task? Remember when I said I was talking about jollof rice? Now, those steps they will use in completing going to the market, where would they put it?
On the board.
The board.
Which backlog? Which board? It's called the sprint.
The sprint backlog.
Good. Don't forget. This screen you're seeing, the product backlog houses what they call the PBIs, the product backlog items. They can also be called work items. They can be called issues. It houses those things. Now, sprint planning happens as a result of the product backlog. The output of this sprint planning is the sprint backlog, which is a breakdown of the work that needs to be done. Is the promised items. This is what we have promised to do this sprint. Then the sprint backlog, that's the sprint board. Now, what is the second thing that will come out of the sprint planning?
The sprint goal.
Fantastic. What is the purpose of the goal?
It helps the team focus on what's important.
Fantastic. You guys are the best. Okay, so that's what happens. So which one of these ceremonies must we do every single day?
Daily Scrum.
Daily stand-up.
What is the purpose of the daily scrum?
To find out
Achieve the sprint goal.
if there's any blockage, something like that.
Any impediment.
Any impediment, yeah.
What was done, what they are doing. But like you said, that is archaic. The new one is for people to just come in and talk about what they are doing, and if there are any impediments, what needs to be done, and who is able to help to take off these impediments.
Fantastic. And don't forget, no two organizations are the same, right? You might join an organization today and they're still talking about, okay, yesterday I actually worked on, which is still valid. I'm not saying it's not valid, but I'm just telling you that people have evolved a lot. You know, especially a high performing team, they just go straight to the focus of the day. You know, so but when you join some organizations, they're still talking about what we're doing. It's not wrong, it's still the way to go, right? So it's just that you as a Scrum Master, you need to be creative in everything you do. But make sure you carry your team along. You cannot make decisions. Don't forget, you make this decision with your team. Question.
Okay, ma'am.
Okay,
I have a question. I have a question.
Yes, please.
Yes, ma'am. For Scrum Mastering, what kind of certification does one need to have to really make one more visible?
Okay, so there are different kinds of certifications. So we've got the PSM one from scrum.org. We've got CSM from Scrum Alliance. We've got SFC from Scrum Study. We've got quite a few certifications. So that's like PSM1, CSM, SFC. Those are the foundation. Those are the first
Please,
certifications you need.
can you take it?
That
Can you
will
take it? Can
certify
you take it
you.
slowly? I'm trying
Like
to write down what you said.
PSM1. That's, you get that from scrum.org. Then there's CSM. You get that from Scrum Alliance. Then there's SFC. You get that from Scrum Study.
Thank you.
All right. Any other question? If you want to ask question, please use the reaction tab there to raise your hand. Okay, so I can see some questions here already. Do the product owners answerable? Okay, what you meant to ask was, are the product owners answerable to the stakeholders? Yes. Answer yes. Isaac.
Okay. I want to ask, what is the correlation between project management and Scrum Mastering? Is it that Scrum Mastering is a subset of project management, or it's a different aspect altogether?
Okay, so project management, they're all project management methodologies, right? So project is just like the way we call it these days. Project management can be done under any methodology. So I guess what you're trying to say is, what's the correlation between the waterfall methodology and agile? So agile is the methodology is done differently. So like I said earlier, with waterfall, they do it in phases. They start with initiate phase, then they go to different phases, build phase, till they close the project. The customers are they don't have an opportunity to be a part of the ongoing project. Once they plan it from the start, they wait to plan the whole work. It can take them a while to plan the whole work. Then they start, then they finish. With agile, we don't wait for the whole plan. We start working on what we have now, and we do it incrementally. Let's say we've chosen to do our sprints, our iterations 2 weeks. The customer is able to be part of the journey of the product. So there are just two different methodologies. There are two different project management methodologies. So they are both still project management methodologies. That's the similarity they have. The way they plan it is just different, and the way they execute it is different.
Please, who are the stakeholders?
So is this Angel?
Oh, sorry, it's Prudence. I should
Okay,
have
you need to
raised my
raise your
hands.
hands. Yes. So
That's
who are the stakeholders? So can someone answer Prudence? Who are the stakeholders?
They are the customers.
I think customers are different.
Anybody
The
can be the
product owners,
stakeholder.
the users.
Anybody can be the
Okay,
stakeholder.
fantastic.
And the reason
Okay,
why I said that is whoever has interest in that particular project is a stakeholder.
Okay.
Do you
okay. So
understand
don't
me?
forget, Prudence.
Right. The reason why
Thanks.
I'm asking,
Hang on a
you see,
minute. Hang on a minute. Hang on a minute.
okay.
Let's take it one after the other. Prudence. Thanks, Faye. All right. So, like, when we started, right? Stakeholders can be anyone. Remember, we defined it. Stakeholders are those people that will be impacted by that solution you're trying to provide. Let's say you're trying to make a manual process faster. You're trying to automate a manual process. The people that will be using that automated process, they are your stakeholders. The bosses at the top that can impact your project, that have high impact or low impact on your project, they're your stakeholders. The people that are interested in your project or in whatever you're trying to build, they are your stakeholders. The people that can make decisions, they are your stakeholders. The people you need to keep informed about what is going on in your project, they are your stakeholders.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you. That makes sense now. The only reason why I asked, when we talked about the sprint review meeting, and you said that the stakeholders, the customers, and the team then meet for the sprint review meeting. So I was just trying to visualize it in my head who the stakeholders are. If they are not the customers, if they are not the team, then they will obviously be at this meeting, they will be part of the company. So which people will I be having this meeting with? That was the reason. Yeah.
But do you understand now?
I do. Thank you very much.
So do you understand that the customers too are your stakeholders?
Yes, I do.
Fantastic. Thank
Hi, Fumi. Thank you so much for the course. Like Angel said, is really very insightful. But I just wanted to ask, a real world application of the being a Scrum Master, what makes an organization decide to use the Scrum framework, and can they like change to Kanban in between? Like, how does it really work? How do they pick which framework to use, and do they continue to use it, or do they switch?
Okay, so briefly answer the question. So in an organization, like you rightly said, some people, they fuse the two frameworks together. They call it Scrum Ban. So it depends on the kind of team they have. So some team, they start off as a Scrum team. They believe they're a Scrum team, but they quickly realize that they're actually not the Scrum team. They are not delivering anything. They don't need to have any increment at the end of the day. What they're only doing is they are enabling other teams to deliver their own project. Like, this team can be a core infrastructure team. What they can do is they can give people accesses, they can provide environment for people, they can be the DevOps team, they can be the platform team. They are not producing anything. They are not expected to have any increment at the end of 2 weeks. So they are only enabling other teams to do their own work. Those kind of teams, they quickly know that they're a Kanban team, not a Scrum team. So they start doing Kanban as opposed to doing Scrum. With Scrum, you have all the ceremonies. With Kanban, you don't have all those ceremonies, except they choose to have just a bit of it. There's really nothing to demo because their work is continuous every day. People are raising ticket. I've worked in an organization where a particular Kanban team, what you do is, let's say you're having issues, you're having Jira issues or whatever. This team, you log a ticket, you raise it on their Kanban board, and they keep, once they're resolving your ticket, it keeps moving across their board into close. They are not delivering anything, but they are enabling other teams. So it depends on the kind of team, what they are doing. So the organization quickly realizes that actually this is supposed to be a Kanban team. Who can help them? An agile coach or a Scrum Master can help them identify these things.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
All right, you're welcome. Any other question quickly? We're 8 minutes over. Apologies to those that want to leave. We'll close in 5 minutes. Isaac, is this legacy hand or a new one?
The new one.
Okay, a new one. Okay, go for it.
Okay, thank you. Just when you said that a PO own a product backlog, does that mean that PO is superior to any other person
No.
in the Scrum team?
No. So PO is part of the team. Like I said, in the Scrum team, there's no hierarchy. The PO, the Scrum Master, the team, they are a team. So they own, don't forget, I said roles. If you understand your role within the team, then no lines will be crossed. If you are the PO and you are playing the Scrum Master, there's a crossover, because ideally the Scrum Master should shield the team from too much work, from burnout, a lot of things. So imagine the Scrum Master being the PO at the same time. However, some organizations, they do it. They do it, but it shouldn't be. So there's no hierarchy. The PO is not your boss. The Scrum Master is not your boss. All of you are part of a team. However, don't forget, I always say this. There are different organizations with different roles and titles. There are some people, they are senior level people within the organization. They only made them the product owner because they understand the product and the business of that organization. So they just give them that title. In that kind of situation, because they are senior people within the organization, they can be on a hierarchy. But in the ideal Scrum team, in the ideal Agile team, there's no hierarchy. Everybody is part of the team.